They called it the Graveyard Nebula until people settled down there. An ancient nebula filled with the wreckage of hundreds of civilizations has become the latest colony site for humanity. While other species flee from the cursed region and steer well clear of it, humans casually amble into chip bricks off underground tombs. They build thriving cities among dead fleets and treat the galaxy's most haunted stretch of space as prime real estate. Commander Elena Vasquez leads the exploration vessel, Prometheus, into the Graveyard Nebula, a region forbidden by galactic civilization, for 12,000 years because no one knew what happened to those who entered there. Instead of death and destruction, she discovers Haven Station, a thriving human colony of 30,000 people who have lived there in secret for 50 years. The colonists, led by station manager Rebecca Thompson, have successfully integrated the alien technologies from the wreckage of extinct civilizations into modern technological breakthroughs unseen anywhere else in the galaxy today. Elena and her crew decide to join the colony, impressed by humanity's ability to turn the galaxy's darkest enigma into its brightest accomplishment. When the Galactic Council finds out about the colony, they are faced with a challenge to their very fundamentals as an organization. This story suggests that the graveyard may in fact serve as a place where civilizations overcome their limits instead of dying out completely. The first rule of deep space exploration was fairly straightforward. One did not go into the Graveyard Nebula. For 12,000 years, every civilization reaching out into space had marked that region with highly charged warnings. The Zephyrians called it the Slow Sea. The Crystalline Collective referred to it as God's empty quiver. The machine consciousness, which knew itself as the Nexus Prime, designated it as Null 43 Override, a classification reserved only for those regions where it seemed that probability itself froze at a whim. Like the old saying goes, rules can't always contain people. Nevertheless, Commander Elena Vasquez stood at attention. She watched the swirling nebula on the viewscreen where ships 7,000 feet long and 700 miles wide could have easily disappeared. On the military bridge, plasma screens exploded in brilliant displays, and every green gas cloud was illuminated solely by the energy of cosmic dust. The nebula's own electromagnetic waves continued to pulse back and forth through this flaming light source, painting unusual shades of wild color with gray smoke, plumes stretching so far that for many hours they seemed to envelop the entire operation. A million fine splinters and tiny fragments glimmered with their own unholy shine, dancing like spirits around an imaginary round table. Each piece of wreckage reflected off others at different angles and ways that seemed today to invite only danger, but which tomorrow might be the very tool needed. Sensor readings are off the charts, reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen from his console. I'm detecting about 47 different kinds of hull metallurgy here, some dating back 1,000 years or more. The electromagnetic interference is incredible, but the quantum resonance signatures indicate we're looking at cultures spanning several epochs of time and civilization. Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the nebula's swirling patterns. At 38, she was the youngest commander in deep space, but her record for making impossible missions breathe again was unique and had won her respect from even the most skeptical admirers. Have you detected any hostile activity? Weapon systems online, automatic defense networks? She asked. That's the weird part, Chen replied. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces as station after station blossomed into life before him, but no clearer picture emerged. There's nothing at all. It's like everything here just ... No energy signatures, no active technology, no one signaling for aid, just floating wreckage caught in an endless embrace. Chief Synorchaeologist Dr. Sarah Kellerman looked up from her own readings, barely able to contain her excitement. We're not just looking at one battle site or even a series of conflicts. Elena, this is unprecedented. This appears to be something that was a convergence point for millennia where multiple civilizations all came to die over countless thousands of years. The historical and technical ramifications are staggering. Elena, staff turned to her. The bridge of the Prometheus was equipped with the latest in human engineering, along with some borrowed technologies from their similarly new and still distant galactic neighbors. It was a far cry from the primitive vessels that had borne humanity to the star scant 2 centuries ago, but even their advanced systems seemed dwarfed by the nebula sprawling before them. Captain Torres, she addressed the ship's communications officer. Have you managed to establish contact with the Galactic Council station? Captain Isabella Torres shook her head gravely. She had been on 3 first contact missions and had seen nothing like this. They're not only not acknowledging our transmissions, Commander, they're actively jamming our communications array. It's as if they're trying to prevent us from discussing this region of space altogether. Elena's expression hardened. The transition 50 years ago to join the galactic community had not been without difficulties. Although humanity's technological contributions and adaptability had impressed many species, some races still viewed humans as disruptive elements, too reckless, too aggressive, and too demanding for anyone's good. Any response to our request for historical data on the nebula? Elena asked. The Zephyrian archives have sent a message, Torres replied, pulling up a holographic display. It reads only, some areas are off limits for a reason. Do not go there. Do not research it. Do not remember it. They've classified it under a damnation protocol, which is the highest level of interdiction in their legal system. Dr. Kellerman laughed, half in amusement and half in frustration. 12,000 years of galactic civilization, and this is what we get. They still think a mystery can be solved by pretending it doesn't exist. Elena stared at the nebula for a long moment, weighing the rewards against the possible risks. The Galactic Council had been steadily increasing its resistance to human expansion, arguing that their utter disregard for established protocols meant they could never be trusted to behave responsibly. There was some truth to this accusation. As Elena acknowledged, where other races saw the unknown and feared death, humans saw opportunity. Where other beings saw emptiness, humans saw new things to learn and explore. Marcus, conduct a complete spectrographic analysis of the nebula composition. We need to know exactly what we're getting into before making any decisions. Already on it, Chen said. The nebula appears relatively stable, no gravitational anomalies or stellar collapses in sight. Electromagnetic interference is intense, but manageable. Interestingly, the cosmic dust contains large amounts of rare earth elements and exotic matter. A place like this would be a goldmine for anyone looking to build advanced starships. Dr. Kellerman added, the preservation conditions are remarkable. The nebula's unique electromagnetic properties seem to have created a sort of temporal stasis field. These wrecks could be equipped with technology and cultural artifacts from civilizations that disappeared before some of our neighboring star systems even began developing space travel. Elena made her decision. We're going in. Full sensor sweep. Maximum caution. If this nebula has held something that frightened off 12,000 years of galactic civilization, I want to know what it is. The Prometheus moved forward slowly, her silver hull gleaming against the nebula's ethereal backdrop. As they crossed the threshold into the cosmic graveyard, the ship's systems began registering readings that defied explanation. The electromagnetic interference created an eerie music that sang through the hull, as if the entire universe was humming a requiem for its lost children. Commander, Chen said, his voice taut with concentration, I'm picking up structures. These aren't just random debris fields, but actual constructed facilities. They're integrated into the larger wreckage fields as if someone used the remains of destroyed ships to build them. Elena moved to his station, studying the sensor readings. Are they inhabited? Unknown. The interference makes it hard to get a clear picture, but there are definitely power sources, multiple power sources, all using different technological approaches. It's like someone has taken the energy systems of numerous different civilizations and made them work together. The view screen shifted focus to their destination, a massive structure that seemed to grow out of the twisted remnants of what had once been a fleet of exploration vessels. The architecture was unlike anything in the known galaxy. Elements of design from different species combined in ways that anyone would have thought impossible to build, let alone maintain. That's not random construction, Dr. Kellerman observed. Someone with mastery of xenotechnology and engineering built that. The degree of integration between different technical systems is far beyond anything we've seen from a single civilization. Permission to dock, Station Manager Thompson. Granted, Bay 7 is open and ready, but the local gravitational field is a bit unstable thanks to all the exotic matter floating around here. Your helmsman might want to take it slow. We've had a couple of ships come in too hot and end up stuck to the docking bay ceiling. As the Prometheus approached the docking bay, Elena struggled to process what they were seeing. The structure they were approaching was massive, large enough to house a medium-sized city. But it wasn't just built from scavenged materials or patched together haphazardly. It had been grown from them, with human design and alien technology, melded into one seamless whole, each component doing what it was supposed to do while somehow managing to exceed its original capabilities. Dr. Kellerman, Elena whispered, what do you make of this? The xenarchaeologist was transfixed by her readings. The way they've integrated these technologies is astounding. They've gotten some of these energy systems running at efficiency levels that exceed their original specifications. It's like they took the best elements of half a dozen different civilizations and found a way to make them work together better than they ever did individually. The docking was smooth despite the gravitational anomalies. As the Prometheus settled into the bay, Alina could see through the viewports that the station interior bustled with activity. Humans in work clothes unloaded cargo, operated machinery, and went about their daily routines in what should have been a galactic graveyard. Commander Chen reported, "The atmosphere inside the station matches Earth normal standards. No indication of contamination or hazardous particles. Whatever's happening here, the human inhabitants aren't in any apparent danger." Alina chose a small group for initial contact, Dr. Kellerman herself, and Lieutenant Commander Chen. As they prepared to leave the ship, she found herself wondering what they would find on the other side of the airlock. The docking bay was larger than most planetary spaceports, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows high above. The architecture was a strange mixture of human practicality and distinctly alien aesthetics, with smooth curves and organic shapes that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Workers moved about their business with casual efficiency, and Alina noticed that many of them wore cybernetic implants of distinctly non-human origin. Commander Vasquez, a woman, approached them, and Alina recognized a voice from the radio transmission. Rebecca Thompson was in her early 50s, with prematurely gray hair and a deep tan that spoke of years under artificial sun lamps, wore a practical jumpsuit that had seen better days, and spoke in a manner that was both brusque and warm. "Station Manager Thompson, I'm grateful for the docking permission. This really isn't what we expected to find." Rebecca chuckled, a sound that carried strangely in the vast chamber. "No one expects to find humans in the graveyard nebula. That's rather the point. When the rest of the galaxy writes off an area as cursed or forbidden, it usually means they're overlooking some pretty valuable resources." Dr. Kellerman stepped forward, her scientific curiosity evident. "How long have you been here?" "Our records show no human settlements in these regions." "Official records might say that, but humans have been working the salvage fields for almost 50 years. At first, it was just a small operation, a handful of freelance prospectors looking for exotic materials. But once word spread about what this place had to offer, things really took off." Alina looked around the bay, taking in the sophisticated equipment, advanced systems, and countless signs of long-term habitation. 50 years. That would have been around the beginning of human interstellar exploration. "Why didn't you report this to the Galactic Council?" Rebecca's expression grew serious. "The Council made it quite clear that no species should enter this region, since they have some pretty firm opinions about the Graveyard Nebula and don't appreciate anyone questioning their decisions. We thought it better to achieve our goals quietly rather than risk a major diplomatic incident, and you haven't been affected by ... local factors." "You mean the dead ships, the so-called curse?" Rebecca shrugged. "Commander, I've been living and working in space for over 20 years. I've seen plenty of things that would terrify most people, but dead ships and ancient wreckage, that's just raw materials and technological resources waiting to be used. The fear is all in people's minds." Alina found Rebecca's pragmatic attitude impressive. "Could you show us around? We'd like to see how you've managed to integrate so many different technologies." "Absolutely. But I should warn you, some of what you're about to see might challenge your assumptions about engineering and technology." As they walked through the station, Alina began to understand the scope of what the human colonists had accomplished. This wasn't just a salvage operation or research station. It was a thriving industrial complex that had somehow managed to make the galaxy's most feared region into a practical and profitable enterprise. The corridors were wide and well lit, with viewing ports that offered constantly changing views of the nebula's beauty outside. The walls themselves were a patchwork of different materials and design philosophies, but everything was so well integrated that the overall effect was both practical and aesthetically pleasing. The biggest challenge, Rebecca explained as they walked, was learning to work with technologies that were never designed with compatibility in mind. Every species in the galaxy has its own engineering philosophy, its own materials science, its own energy systems. When you're salvaging wreckage from dozens of different civilizations, figuring out how to make them all work together is quite a puzzle. Dr. Kellerman's scientific mind was racing as she took detailed notes. "How did you solve the compatibility problems?" "Trial and error, mostly," Rebecca said, "and a hefty dose of human ingenuity. We have engineers here who've developed integration methods that probably violate half the known laws of physics, but they work." They entered what Rebecca called the main integration chamber, and Alina found herself momentarily speechless. The chamber was enormous, with a domed ceiling that stretched impossibly high. Throughout the space, massive pieces of alien technology hung suspended in midair, connected by streams of light and energy that pulsed in rainbow patterns. This is where the real work gets done, Rebecca explained. We take salvaged systems from the wreckage and figure out how to integrate them with our own technology. Some of these pieces are from civilizations that vanished before humans even developed agriculture. Alina approached one of the suspended devices, a crystalline structure that seemed to contain its own miniature star system. What does this one do? It's a gravitational field generator, Rebecca replied. The species that built it used it to create artificial gravity wells around their ships. We've adapted it for our construction projects. Makes moving heavy materials much easier. And the power source. Rebecca pointed to a sleek, organic-looking device that seemed to breathe with its own rhythm. That's from a biomechanical civilization. They grew their technology rather than building it. The power output is incredible, and it's completely self-sustaining. We have 17 of them powering various systems throughout the station. Alina struggled to grasp the implications of what she was seeing. Rebecca, do you realize what you've accomplished here? You've integrated technologies from civilizations that the Galactic Council considers lost to history. The scientific and commercial ramifications are staggering. Oh, we realize that. It's why we've been expanding operations and why we've been so careful to keep everything under wraps. Dr. Kellerman looked up from her notes with a troubled expression. But what about the warnings, the interdictions? Every major civilization in the galaxy has declared this region taboo. Rebecca's tone became more pointed. Commander, may I ask you something? How many times in history have these civilizations been wrong about their predictions? How many opportunities have they missed because they were too afraid of the unknown? The question gave Alina pause. Throughout her career, she had often seen situations where the established galactic powers had been overly cautious. Fear of the unknown had caused them to miss opportunities for growth and advancement. You have a point, but there must be some reason for these warnings. 12,000 years of continuous interdictions suggests more than just fear. Of course there's a reason, Rebecca agreed. But I think it's psychological rather than practical. This region is a monument to failure. Dozens of civilizations came here and died, and no one knows why. That kind of mystery is terrifying too. Species that value order and predictability above all else. So you think the curse is actually ... psychological? I think the curse is whatever you make it. If you come here expecting death and failure, that's probably what you'll find. But if you come here expecting opportunity and resources, that's what you'll discover instead. Rebecca's philosophy began to resonate with Alina. It was a distinctly human approach focusing on practical problems, rather than abstract fears, but there was wisdom in its earthiness. Could you show us more of the operation? I'd like to understand exactly how you've managed to build such a successful colony without any support from the rest of the galaxy. I'd be happy to. But some of what you're about to see might seem strange, or even heretical to people accustomed to conventional approaches. As they left the integration chamber, they moved deeper into the station. The architecture seemed to shift as they walked, each section appearing to have been designed specifically for the alien technology it housed. Alina noticed that the humans working here moved with a confidence and competence that seemed enhanced rather than diminished by their interaction with technologies that most galactic civilizations would consider inherently dangerous. This is something you should see, Rebecca said, leading them to a large observation deck that looked out into the heart of the nebula. We call it the Memory Garden. Alina stepped to the viewing windows and felt her breath catch. In the nebula's glowing embrace, ships floated in perfect formation, intact vessels that showed no signs of battle damage or age. They hung there preserved and pristine, as if they still had crews aboard waiting for orders. Are those ships functional? Alina asked. Empty but perfectly preserved. The nebula creates a temporal stasis field using its own electromagnetic properties. Those ships have been floating there for thousands of years, waiting for someone to claim them. Dr. Kellerman moved closer to the observation windows, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. The preservation is extraordinary. Some of those designs are from species that are purely mythical in council records. They weren't mythical, Rebecca corrected. They were just forgotten. These were incredibly advanced species, but they followed the same pattern and ended up here. The galaxy has been forgetting them ever since. Alina studied the floating ships with growing wonder. What happened to them? That's the question, isn't it? We've been studying the evidence for 30 years, and still don't have a complete answer. But we have theories, such as, Rebecca paused, choosing her words carefully. What if they didn't die? What if they just transcended? Transcended. Look at the evidence. Different species from different parts of the galaxy, different time periods in galactic history, all technologically advanced, but all ultimately arriving here. What if the Graveyard Nebula isn't a place where civilizations come to die? What if it's where they come to evolve beyond their original limitations? The idea sent a chill through Alina. That's a remarkable theory, is it? Look around you at what we've accomplished. We've taken a region that the entire galaxy considers cursed and turned it into a thriving civilization. We've integrated technologies that were never meant to work together, discovered solutions that shouldn't be possible, and transformed a graveyard into a garden. Dr. Kellerman looked up from her notes with a fascinated expression. You're suggesting that the nebula itself might be some kind of catalyst, a place where civilizations are pushed to evolve or perish. I'm suggesting that maybe the reason all these civilizations came here wasn't because they were dying, but because they had outgrown their origins. And maybe the reason they disappeared wasn't because they failed, but because they succeeded. The concept was intriguing, but Ali remained skeptical. Succeeded at what? At becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. At transcending the limitations that had defined them before they arrived here. And you think that's happening to humanity here? Rebecca smiled, and for a moment Alina saw something in that smile that seemed beyond merely human. Maybe in the Graveyard Nebula, we've learned to add to ourselves, rather than limit ourselves to the boundaries set by other species. Over the following hours, Alina toured facility after facility, each more impressive than the last. The human colonists had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had taken the ruins of dozens of different civilizations spanning millions of years and transformed them into a prosperous, dynamic society that seemed eager to push against every boundary and succeed where others had failed. The residential areas were comfortable and attractive, incorporating design elements from various alien cultures in ways that somehow felt natural and inviting. The research facilities boasted technology that could rival the most advanced laboratories anywhere in the galaxy. The manufacturing zones produced materials and goods that could never have been created through conventional means. But the most impressive thing about the place was its people. The colonists Alina met were vibrant, intelligent, and supremely confident. They spoke of their work with a passion that Alina had rarely encountered, even among the most dedicated scientists and engineers. How do you attract people to work on a project like this? Alina asked while visiting a workshop where human engineers collaborated with alien artificial intelligences. We don't recruit, Rebecca replied. People find us. Word spread slowly and quietly about what we're doing here. The kind of people who are drawn to this work are usually those who don't fit well into conventional galactic society. Dissidents, rebels, visionaries, pioneers, people who see problems as opportunities and aren't afraid to question the established way of doing things. Alina found herself wondering if she might be such a person. She had always been a bit of a maverick, always asking questions and pushing boundaries. Her superiors had often complained about her tendency to challenge established procedures. May I ask you something personal, Rebecca? Don't you worry about the long-term consequences of what you're doing here? The Galactic Council isn't going to ignore this operation forever. Rebecca's expression grew serious. Commander, I've lived long enough to know that the real dangers are the ones you don't see coming. The galaxy is full of species that have achieved stability and security by never challenging their fundamental assumptions about reality. Where has that gotten them? It's given them 12,000 years of peace and prosperity, has it? Or has it given them 12,000 years of stagnation and missed opportunities? Rebecca gestured around them. Look at what we've built here, Commander. In 50 years, starting from nothing and using only human determination and ingenuity, we've created something that surpasses anything the established powers of the galaxy have to offer. Alina had to admit Rebecca made a compelling point. The technology she had seen at the station was impressive, but what really made it remarkable was its human element. The colonists had taken the galaxy's greatest mystery and turned it into humanity's greatest achievement. What's your long-term plan? Alina asked. Expansion, growth, integration. We're not just salvaging old technology, we're creating new possibilities. We're not just solving the mystery of the Graveyard Nebula, we're using it to redefine what's possible for humanity. And if the Galactic Council orders you to shut down, Rebecca's smile was confident and slightly defiant, then they'll have to explain why they're denying everyone access to technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization. They'll have to admit that they've been wrong about the Graveyard Nebula for 12,000 years, and they'll have to acknowledge that humans have succeeded where every other species has failed. The technology integration was impressive, but Alina found the human element equally compelling. Over the next 3 days, she immersed herself in colony life, and by the end of that time, she was thoroughly convinced that the colonists had discovered something extraordinary. The people she met were unlike anyone she had encountered in her career. They were creative, innovative, and utterly fearless in their approach to problem solving. They spoke about their work with a kind of enthusiasm that Alina remembered from her early days in space. Exploration before bureaucracy and politics had complicated her love of discovery. Dr. Kellerman threw herself into the research opportunities, spending long hours in the xenorchaeology labs examining artifacts that were literally rewriting the history of galactic civilization. Lieutenant Commander Chen became fascinated with the engineering principles that made the stations impossible. Technologies work together, Commander Chen reported on their 3rd day. I've been working with their engineering teams, and what they've accomplished here is staggering. They've developed integration techniques that could revolutionize how we approach technology development. The applications for Earth's space program alone would be worth billions. Alina had been thinking along similar lines. What about the risks, the unknowns? Honestly, I think the biggest risk is not taking advantage of what we've learned here. The colonists have demonstrated that the dangers of the Graveyard Nebula are manageable, but the opportunities are unprecedented. That evening, Alina stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the nebula's swirling colors and the floating ships that had once terrorized the entire galactic community. She thought about her career, her responsibilities, and the decision she had to make. It's beautiful, isn't it? Rebecca's voice came from behind her. Alina didn't turn around. It's terrifying and beautiful at the same time. That's what makes it perfect for humans. We've never been afraid of things that are both wonderful and dangerous. Rebecca, can I ask you something? Of course. What if you're wrong? What if the interdiction exists for good reasons? What if there really is something here that destroyed all those civilizations? Rebecca didn't answer immediately. She moved to stand beside Alina at the viewing window. Then we'll face that responsibility and learn from it. But if we're wrong, at least we'll have expanded the realm of possibility for everyone, not just humans, but every form of life in the galaxy. Alina turned to face Rebecca. And you're willing to take that risk? Commander, Rebecca replied, I've been taking that risk every day for 30 years. So far, it's been the best decision I ever made. Alina made her choice. I'd like to join the colony. Rebecca's smile was warm and welcoming. I was hoping you'd say that. What about your crew? I'll leave the decision up to them, but I think they'll make the same choice I have. Over the following weeks, Alina watched as her crew members gradually integrated into the colony. As Rebecca had predicted, most of them chose to remain in an environment that offered them unprecedented opportunities for growth and discovery. Dr. Kellerman took charge of the xenorchaeology department, conducting research that was revolutionizing understanding of galactic history. Lieutenant Commander Chen assumed leadership of the engineering integration project, developing new methods for combining human and alien technologies. Alina herself became involved in expansion planning, helping to design new facilities and coordinate the human contribution to what had become a galaxy-wide attraction for immigrants and researchers. We're going to have to contact the Galactic Council eventually, Alina pointed out during one of their planning sessions. This operation is growing too large to remain secret. I'm not worried, Rebecca replied. When they finally discover what we've accomplished here, they'll have to acknowledge that we've succeeded where they failed. Alina admired Rebecca's confidence, but she remained concerned. The colony had achieved something extraordinary, but it had done so by remaining hidden. Once the galaxy discovered humans in the Graveyard Nebula, everything would change. 6 months after Alina's arrival, it happened. A Galactic Council patrol detected energy signatures in the nebula and came to investigate. Alina happened to be on duty in the command center when their sensors picked up the approaching vessel. Haven Station 2, unidentified vessel. Alina transmitted. Please state your business in this region. The response came from a Zephyrian warship with typical bureaucratic formality. This is Captain Zarthal of the Galactic Council vessel Eternal Vigil. You are in violation of Interdiction Protocol 7. Cease all activities immediately and prepare to be escorted from this region. Rebecca arrived at the command center as soon as the alert sounded. They had discussed this possibility many times, but facing the reality was different from theoretical planning. Captain Zarthal, Alina replied. You are addressing a human colony operating under the authority of Earth Space Command. We are not in violation of any law or treaty. The interdiction of the Graveyard Nebula predates your species' membership in the Galactic Council by millennia. Your presence here is unauthorized and dangerous. Dangerous to whom, Captain? We've been operating safely in this region for over 30 years. There was a long pause before the Zephyrian officer replied, "That is impossible. No species has ever survived extended exposure to the Graveyard Nebula. Perhaps it's time to reconsider your assumptions about what's possible." Alina could hear the tension in the alien officer's voice when he replied, "You will withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to remove you." Rebecca stepped forward and activated the communication link. "Captain Zarthel, this is Station Manager Rebecca Thompson. Before you decide to remove us, perhaps you should examine what we've accomplished here. We're transmitting a data packet that details our research and technological achievements. I think you'll find it illuminating." Alina watched the sensor readings as the Council ship received the transmission. The data packet contained carefully selected information about the colony's successes, emphasizing peaceful development and breakthrough technologies that could benefit the entire galaxy. "This is unprecedented," the Zephyrian captain said, after a long pause. "You claim to have successfully integrated technologies from numerous extinct civilizations." "We don't claim it, Captain. We've done it, and we're prepared to share our discoveries with the Galactic Council if they're interested in cooperation rather than confrontation. I must report this to the Council immediately." "Of course. But Captain, I hope you'll also report that humanity has succeeded at something every other species has failed to achieve. We've transformed the galaxy's greatest mystery into a thriving community. That should count for something." The Council ship withdrew to a safe distance, but Alina knew the real challenge was just beginning. Soon the nebula would be filled with Council vessels, and the fate of the colony would be decided by beings who had never seen what the human colonists had accomplished. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Rebecca asked as they watched the Council ship disappear into the nebula. "Embrace. I'm ready to fight for what we've built here," Alina replied. "But I'm also realistic about our chances. The Council has resources and political influence we can't match. Maybe, but they also have something we don't: 12,000 years of failed assumptions to explain. When they arrive in force, they're going to have to confront the fact that their interdiction was based on fear rather than evidence." Alina hoped Rebecca was right, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the colony's peaceful existence was about to end. The next several days saw an increasing number of Council vessels arrive in the nebula. Alina found herself engaged in diplomacy from the heart of the galaxy's most forbidden region, a unique experience, even for someone with her varied background. The Council delegation was led by High Coordinator Veltar of the Crystalline Collective, a being whose complex crystal form reflected the nebula's swirling colors. The alien's voice resonated with harmonics that made Alina's bones ache. "Commander Busker, Station Manager Thompson, you have created a situation that challenges the very foundations of galactic civilization. The Graveyard Nebula has been interdicted for 12,000 years because every species that ventured here vanished without a trace." Alina faced the alien with steady composure. "With respect, High Coordinator, that's not accurate. The species that came here didn't vanish. They transcended their original limitations and became something greater. A remarkably optimistic interpretation of mass extinction events. Is it extinction if the result is evolution? Is it failure if the outcome is transformation?" Rebecca stepped forward. "High Coordinator, we've been studying the evidence from this region for 30 years. Everything suggests that the civilizations that came here didn't die, they succeeded. They achieved something their original societies couldn't provide and moved on to something better. And what evidence do you have for this theory?" "The preservation of their technology, the integration possibilities, the fact that their knowledge and capabilities are still available to those who have the courage to use them." Alina could sense skepticism in the High Coordinator's crystalline form. "You claim to have integrated technologies from multiple extinct civilizations. Prove it." Alina led the delegation to the primary integration chamber, where the alien technologies continued their impossible dance of cooperation and synergy. The visiting officials observed in stunned silence as Alina explained the integration process and demonstrated the combined capabilities that exceeded anything their original creators had achieved. "This is beyond our current understanding," High Coordinator Veltar admitted. "You have accomplished what our greatest scientists believed impossible." "We've accomplished what fear prevented you from attempting," Rebecca replied. "The Graveyard Nebula isn't cursed, it's a catalyst. It's a place where civilizations come to evolve beyond their original limitations." The High Coordinator's form shifted, crystals rearranging in patterns that Alina recognized as deep contemplation. If your theory is correct, then we have been wrong for 12,000 years. We have been preventing our own evolution out of fear of the unknown. That's exactly what we're saying, Alina confirmed. And that's why we're willing to share our discoveries with the Galactic Council. This isn't just about human achievement, it's about the potential for all species to transcend their limitations. The negotiations that followed were complex and sometimes heated, but eventually, a compromise was reached. The human colony would be allowed to continue operating, but under Council oversight and with shared research protocols. The graveyard, Nebula, would be redesignated as a research zone rather than a forbidden region. It wasn't everything Rebecca had hoped for, but it was a beginning. For the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy would have the opportunity to learn from its greatest mystery rather than simply fear it. As Alina stood on the observation deck watching the council ships depart, she reflected on the journey.